artists should have the resources they need to do the work that runs through their veins. And with the gathering of resources, we will one day abolish the phrase starving artist. Day and night, the movement does not cease, for creativity never sleeps. We are Artist Uprising.
My guy, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. How are you doing?
Doing great. I can't complain. I'm just super glad and hyped that, I get to talk to you while you're out in Paris. How are things? I see you doing, big things out there. What have you been up to?
Oh, man. So how I got out here so quickly, the way that it all happened, because my friend, she works for this brand called Shop Chloe Colette, and she's a designer for the brand. And we've been like friends for like 10 years or something like that. And they were having a show, but the samples that they initially had weren't up to par when they got them. So They just was like gonna do them themselves type thing. So her only being able to, because she trusts her sewing skills, but even like finding, because it's more than just finding a seamstress to do what you tell them, in regards to designing the samples, especially within 7 days. So that was a lot in itself. She just needed somebody that she trusted that had great sewing skills. And because, obviously I'm a designer too. So there's like, certain calls that I can make or help them with in regards to just this technique might work better for this time frame that we're working on right now.
Right.
So just being able to kind of help her, and guiding her and making like certain executive decisions in the time frame that we had. So we ended up having the show last Thursday. So I got called Wednesday. What was it? What day was that? It was because it was like last month now. So she called me Wednesday on the 26th of January, asking, can I come out to Paris? And I got on the plane at 7 a.m. that morning, the 27th, and I got here on Friday on the 28th.
Oh, wow.
So yeah.
So did you just go straight to work?
Oh yeah, no, we got struck because we didn't have time for us to kumbaya at all. So we literally got straight to it. I was like, all right, I'm here. What do you need done? Let's get it done because we ain't got that much time. I'm like, because I have my process and how I do things, but then I want, this is not my brand. This is not my situation. So I'm coming into it, just also respecting my friend's process and how she does things and not like overstepping or trying to tell her, at least like giving her, giving her some, because even though she trusts me, it's still different when you start working, It's like, I had to give her time to just, when it gets to that point where it's like, you don't have time for this now you have to really trust me and let me so we definitely got to that point, and we were literally working up until it was time to put the models out into the event space to do their walk, which was at the La Maurice Hotel here in Paris, which is like amazing, this beautiful, amazing, decadent Victorian gold gilded, I mean, it's beautiful.
Well, wherever you're at right now, I'm looking at the background and I was like, this is perfect for the interview. Like I see like the walls in the background and I see the sewing machine. Like, where are you specifically right now?
Oh, right now I'm actually at my friend's place. This is where we were making everything.
Nice.
This is literally the room we were making everything inside of her flat here in Paris. So yeah, this is where all the magic happened in 7 days, really 6 days to be honest, but
you were talking about like how pretty and pristine the room was where the show was held. Like when it comes to traveling like to other countries, do you find like inspiration when you travel, or do you use that time to like unplug and just kind of like feel the vibe?
I feel like because as a designer, as a creative, it never turns off, even if you're trying to. And plus I just keep my eyes open. So I feel like I'm always going to find something that inspires me, and always keep my head up. I try not to be on my phone so much, even when we're like, driving through the Champs-Élysées. So it's just like, I try to like look out the window when we're in the car, it's like, I just make sure to just be present in the moment and not be so dissociated, by being on my phone all the time. So there's always a way for me to find inspiration.
How do you harness that inspiration into like original ideas that become the products that we see at your shows?
Sometimes I'm inspired and it gets filtered in a way, or I keep seeing like a certain color constantly. Or when it comes to me, for me, my stuff always starts with music too. As far as like what the product or the runway or the collection in my vision, like existing, as far as like what I want people to feel.
Yes.
So music,
right?
Is always going to be a big inspiration. I mean, it's like yeah. So it's like cool listening to, like, D-Town boogie songs in a flat in Paris. Like, that's funny. That's the contrast of the mixtures of things you can bring, which that's something I've always done in a way.
Right.
Especially when it comes to music. And like, I mean, I've played like, even in Dallas, I've played German trap on a runway before, so it's like, I played Russian music on a runway before, and people don't even be knowing. They just, they're not, because we're like, being in Dallas, a lot of people say listen to that side of the world like that.
That's what I love about you, is because like when it comes to like your brand, what I love about your brand, like, is that you're unapologetic, you're fearless, which is not always the case with like artists, especially like newer artists. I mean, have you always been that way in life, or do you feel like your journey has shaped you to be this way?
I mean, I feel like once I decided that I was going to be doing design, I've always approached it in a way that I knew was my vision and my way, and I didn't apologize for it, for sure. Just because it was what I hadn't seen, prior to, I mean, obviously, you got like Virgil, it's seen, but I like to say I did it first, as much as I love them.
Yeah.
So being able to move in a way where I've always respected and never rushed my process at the same time, through my journeys and travels and encounters and people that I've met along the way, even before design, that allowed me to understand the undertaking as a designer, what I was about to get myself into at the same time. And then understanding the way to move with it, getting advice from, Azadine Alayo, when it comes to not letting anybody rush your process. And if you don't have nothing to say, you don't have nothing to design. So why just design in the vacuum? That doesn't make sense.
Right.
So I've always designed on my own timeline.
Do you feel like there's a level of constant adaptation that is needed to hold your place, or maybe even make room for your work? I mean, because, the world of fashion is just ever changing.
I mean, I feel like you do always have to adapt to the times, to some degree. And it depends, again, you don't have to, but I think it's important to stay current to the ethos and the feeling of where people's hearts and minds and spirits are at the same time, because it allows that connectivity and that relatability, and just like the impact that, that gives them what they need and not just what they want all the time, and because we're using the elements that are current, rotation, it allows us to take and adapt and even shift. Because I mean, sometimes you can be making a collection and this is the direction, but then, you got Black Lives Matter that happens and that completely changes.
Right.
It's like things like that that happen, and you adapt for sure. And I think that's just important to follow what you're feeling in that way when that does happen, because that's a part of the creative process for sure.
There's something I wanted to talk to you about. You recently spoke out about consumer buying habits, which is huge because that influences artists and brands across all mediums and platforms. I love what you had to say about people investing in what they love for the sole reason that they love it, not because they saw it on a celebrity or because it was on a major designer, it had a major designer's name. If we could flip that message for the artist, because it's so easy for young creatives to get caught up in a world the world wants to see or hear and see you wear, how would you encourage someone to create something that they love because it feels right to them, rather than them trying to make something with the goal of getting a world of strangers to buy?
I mean, I encourage people literally always, when it comes to just like designing in your own truth and just designing, to your instincts and your flow and your vibe, and to the people who do love it, who do genuinely want it, who do genuinely want to buy it. I mean, because you also have to understand kind of psychology to understanding buying habits, when it comes to the way people buy, why they buy something, understanding how to kind of evoke an emotional reaction from people. And we are able to, in a way, like do that with fashion and art because it's so expressive. And if you can create something that causes that, that's how people and why they would buy something. At least that's the genuine reason. I mean, obviously people buy things for the sake of, brand and, surface level reasons,
right,
or superficial reasons in that way. I think you have to be able to like understand that not everybody's going to fuck with your shit, and that's okay. Because the ones like who do, like, this is how you kind of create community, and then you just cultivate that community right there. Because when you stay true to what you feel, what you design, what your output is as a creative, as a designer, it's like it'll find its way to, the masses if it's good, obviously, and if it's, the quality is there, and then obviously people into your vision and just, and what you want people to get from it or what you want people to feel from it. It's like if you're staying true to you, it'll reach where it needs to reach. That's why I love people like Tyler Perry, because he talks about that. He's like, I don't concern myself with trying to get white approval. He's like, I create for us, and I'm fine with that. He's like, I overabundance my creativity into us. And everybody needs to be able to do that with their art. Obviously he's talking in regards to, us, like a Black community for sure. Mm-hmm. But I think that same model of like, feeding your audience can apply to everybody that is creating anything. Feed that to your people, to the people that are fucking with it. Like, give that to them. You don't worry about all the outside noise. I mean,
that is so true, man. And you were hitting it on the head with the sense of the community part. I mean, over the years, like your brand, Smith II, like it's grown, and there's so many young people that look up to you. Is mentoring like 20-somethings part of building representation for your generation?
Absolutely. I mean, I definitely feel like by the way I choose to output my opinions, in a way does that, even if you're not right next to me on a day-to-day basis. And a part of me understands that's why I am so honest in my social media post, just like Virgil was in his way of doing that and giving free game. I mean, because we all, especially as a Black creative in high-end fashion or luxury in fashion, high-end dressmaking, concept and design, it's like, it's not a lot of us, as you see, so it is important for me to be as true and as honest with what I'm presenting as a designer, but also just like as a human being, so they can understand that, you know, in times it's okay to not be okay. Sometimes it's okay to feel exactly what you feel. I mean, I'm not saying like everybody has to take the approach of like posting those things all the time, but in regards to why I do that is because I know that I'm not alone. If I feel like this, I know someone else feels like this. So therefore, me just saying that just broke down this thing that you were standing in your own way already. So that allows you to move past that because you know it's not just you now, you know, which I think is like important when it comes to the way we express ourselves, whether creatively or whether that's, you know, verbally, a way it's happening in real time. And I feel like obviously when it comes to people being like naturally like kind of like next to me in mentorship in that way, I mean, I feel like once I get my business infrastructure to a space where because for me it's just I need to trust people when it comes to actually being around me. On don't need to always micromanage, and they have a level of initiative, but understand how to take direction. I think we had like 4 designers that came together for one company, you know, to help with, you know, no egos involved.
Right.
We all just came in. Victoria, what do you need? What do you need done? Is that, you know, we came in, whatever she needed done, that's what we did. And it's hard for a lot of people to work like that because they get certain things personally, or, you know, we're in a time crunch. So if she's to like beat around the bush with certain things just because of the time, but it's always said respectfully at the end of the day, you know. So, and obviously in the heat of the moment, it is what it is. But I think when you understand what's happening, then you learn not to listen with those kind of ears.
No, you know, like when I think about or just put myself in your shoes just as a fashion designer and the things that you've done, like all the way up to this point, what would you say like your relationship is with the past as a designer and the future as a designer? I mean, do you plan for the future or do you wait for it to reveal itself?
So for me, it's already written, and I saw it when I started. Like I know exactly where I'm going to end up, you know. So for me, it's a matter of making sure that I don't try to skip those steps, you know, because even knowing your future for some people can be dangerous because they don't have discipline, you know, when you have that vision that people fall into as far as like not wanting to lean into your light, because sometimes even leaning into your light in a positive way is still scary because there's no guidebook for understanding how to, you know, handle being famous or handle certain levels of attention when you are talented, you know, getting notoriety and you start getting all these things and you don't want to start feeling yourself, you know. So sometimes that success, you know, is a fear for people. Like succeeding is a fear, you know. So I think it's just a matter, you just have to understand how to have a still mind, body, and spirit to where, like I said,
totally
understanding the noise around you, but knowing when to invite the noise inward too, and having that inner understanding.
I love that, man. Understanding the noise around you. Yes, that is a gem right there. How do you see or think the next generations of designers will find their own paths?
For me, that's why I say being a designer, there's so much that goes into being a designer, especially if you want to have your own brand, because it's just so much more than just designing. It's the business of the fashion that is also so vital and so important. So I think they need to understand, they need to be real with themselves, first of all. Like, is this something that is a hobby? It's like the conversation you need to have with yourself before jumping off the cliff type thing, because that's what it is. It's like you need to really have that inner understanding of conversation with yourself on how much am I willing to sacrifice, because this is a beautiful torture every day. You know, with understanding what your DNA voice is as a brand, understanding the business of fashion, and understanding the right steps in which you need to take, lowering your ego. Don't sit up here and like just copy what you see. I'm not saying don't like look at references or anything like that, but at the same time, it's like you need to really analyze and or understand like what it is that you feel that you have to say, and like what are you going to say that's different than everything else that's already out here. What's your product going to be? That, I mean, there's more than enough fashion in the world. There's more than enough clothes in the world. It's like, what's going to be your way of moving with it? What's your why? Like understanding what your why is. Why am I doing it? Why do I want to do fashion design? Why do I want to pursue this? It's just, I think you have to know at least at some point in the early stages. Sometimes you just know that you have this innate feeling to want to express, and your medium is design that you're choosing.
Yeah.
But I think just understanding that in the early stages, and then understanding what it takes to make yourself relevant in a space that's already oversaturated,
Yeah.
and just making sure to do like your research and understanding people, and making sure that you understand people or want to understand people, because even though it's your voice, it's your brand, it's your label, but you still need to understand how to create desirability over and over and over and over again, because it will never end. And that is difficult to do from collection to collection, from piece to piece. Why is your bomber jacket more special than this other bomber jacket made by Y3? It's just like, you got to really understand and do like your research, and just knowing what you want to say and how you want to say it, and how are people going to connect and feel like, they either want to be you or they believe you.
Right.
It's an interesting space to navigate.
Interesting, but still, I think like those kind of conversations that you have to have with yourself are so important. As far as difficult as it can be, like I just know for myself, just when you figure that stuff out, I think then everything becomes clearer.
No, absolutely. Because I think just when you have those conversations, when you're like still and understanding how to be still, also understanding how to just be patient with you trying to understand what it is that you feel, and not trying to rush just because you see everything moving so fast, and being so influenced by the movement of everything else happening around you, and thinking that you're late to the party. I'm like, the party, and that's okay. And understanding that like what this person's doing over here, what this person's doing over here should not matter. Just run your race, honestly, at the end of the day, because that's really all you can do.
Is there any artist, it could be like in the fashion world, entertainment, or, like personally that or anyone that you can say that you're an unconditional fan of, and that is somewhat a source of inspiration for you when it comes to creating your brand?
Definitely had different mentors myself that I like personally knew, and that definitely has been there for me as like a soundboard in certain ways. At the end of the day, even just like taking advice, I'm always willing to listen. At the end of the day, I still have to make that decision, what I choose to accept as advice that I can actually use. Because I'm more so like, I have daily conversations with myself all the time. So anything I've asked when it comes to like certain mentors, like, having like Andre Leon Talley, as a mentor, and Virgil as a mentor, Karl Lagerfeld as a mentor, rest in peace to, every single one. In Marine Cat, like, I mean, it's like, I'm very fortunate to have people that worked in the industry and work in the industry, but I need to know for myself and for business too at the same time. And it teaches you just how to design smarter. It teaches me how to do steps a certain way in regards to just like, whether, because even me, like at one point taking the time to kind of fall back on doing the collections to be even more targeted with the way I was designing once I kind of got more of the business side more understood. So I scaled back to restart, doing that silently. And you have to understand it's okay with burning the whole shit down and starting over, because that's a big thing that stands in a lot of people's way. Just because we put something out on social media, it's mine. I'll delete it. If I had to rename Smith II because somebody stole it, I would do it. I don't care. It's like we can't be so, such a prisoner of our output. Because I feel like we become prisoners of what we post once it's out there, as if we can't just delete it and start over. I'm like, people only gonna see what you saw in that moment, and the way things move so fast at this point, they gonna forget all about that, and it's people will like understand and see and believe what you basically tell them to, like in regards to your stuff. It's like, oh, this is what they're doing now. Okay, cool. That's what I mean. They can't question it, like So
Exactly.
It's just, you can't be a prisoner of your output like that. You really just have to be okay with just, if working, this direction isn't working, then just restart. To get that type of advice from like Virgil, for sure, when it comes to stuff like that, absolutely. And then just with like taking certain things from like Karl Lagerfeld in regards to not having this limit on where your creative expression exists. He was a designer for two design houses, major ones, Chanel and Fendi, but he also was a photographer. He also was, a director and a filmmaker, so he also was he just was a savant and an artist in his own right, in the way that he did that. And that's okay. That's because it all still is under the umbrella of either your brand or your expression or who you are. It's just, you can't, because sometimes we can be stifled because we're trying to output our creativity in a space that we're supposed to do it in, but it's your world to create how you want to. And sometimes we can forget that it's literally your world to create. And that's the beautiful part about being able to have your own brand, that your creative expression goes as far as you're willing to take it.
Well, I know you've got a lot going on in Paris. I know you've got some things actually that you've got to like be heading out to tonight over there. So I just wanted to thank you so much for taking the time to be a part of the podcast today. And, as far as for our viewers and listeners, how can anyone who's watching or listening today, how can they find you on social media?
First of all, thank you. I definitely appreciate you. Appreciate you all like having me speak again. I love doing these type of things and sharing my journey and, and my experiences. And obviously, how you can find me is, I have my Instagram, which is at SMITHTHE2ND, like second place for Smith. Yes. Second, my Instagram. And I have my website, www.SMITHTHESECOND.com, smiththesecond.com.
Thank you again. Super grateful to have you on and, obviously drop the knowledge that you always do. And I look forward to seeing you whenever you get back into town, man.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you all having me again, and looking forward to getting back there. Not too soon. But I do want to get back because I got shit to do.
Take care, my man.
All right, peace.
Peace.
Stay tuned and explore the next Artist Uprising. Use #ArtistUprising to join the movement.